name is Jim Burley. I'm a Maggid, which means I'm a Jewish inspirational storyteller. I have a story for you today called The Cave of Temptations, and it's my own adaptation of that classic folk tale. It seems as though, a long time ago, there was a family of goatherds. Father, mother, 3 sons, and a daughter. The daughter was the youngest of them all. Her name was Sarah. Now, this family had a wonderful herd of goats. They were known for the sweet milk that they produced, and in fact, their milk was in great demand. But the family also noticed that one of the goats, in particular, gave the sweetest milk of all. And they all wondered where this particular goat was eating because the milk was so much better. So young Sarah had a great idea, and she got one of her ribbons and she tied the ribbon around the goat's neck and hung a little bell from it so that they could go off and follow the goat, figure out where, in fact, all this wonderful sweet milk was coming from. What grass was the goat eating? And so the first day out, the eldest of the 3, let's call him Abe, said, well, I'm the oldest brother. I'll go out and I'll find out where our goat is eating. And so the others kind of watched the goats as Abe followed the special goat, the one with the bell around its neck. And indeed, it headed off in a different direction. And after nearly an hour of following, he saw the goat disappear into a cave. Can't be much to graze on in there, but he followed the goat. And as soon as he got in the cave, he was distracted because there, on the floor, was a pile of gold and jewels such he's never seen before. It was huge. And he thought, well, this is so marvelous. I wonder how much there is. And he sat down and he started to count it. And hour after hour went by, and he was still there counting when the goat came back from wherever it had been, passed him right by. He didn't even notice it. And the goat went back to the herd. When evening fell, the other 3 noticed that the goat was back, but Abe was nowhere to be found. So they thought, well, the next day we'll send someone else out. And so, of course, the next day it was the next son's turn, the middle son. Let's call him Yitz. And he headed out to follow the goat. And once again, he followed the goat for quite a while, for an hour or so, and it disappeared into a cave. And there goes Yitz following him. And as he enters the cave, he sees his brother there, counting coins, counting jewels. And he can't distract him from it. But he knows he's supposed to follow the goat, so he says, well, I'll get him on the way back. And he keeps following the goat, rounds one of the corners in the cave, and there he smells it before he sees it. A delicious aroma of more foods than he can ever imagine. And there it is, all laid out on a wonderful table, hot and fresh and ready to eat. A glass of wine, everything. He sits down and makes the blessings and starts to eat. And he's having so much good time eating that the goat continues to wander on. And he's still sitting there eating when the goat comes back hours later and doesn't even notice that the goat passes him by and passes Abe by. And yes, at dusk that night, the last brother and Sarah notice that the goat is back, but neither of the brothers are. Well, the next morning, against his father's wishes, the third son, let's call him Jake, heads out to follow the goat, leaving Sarah behind to watch the flock. And sure enough, he follows the goat. And the goat, after an hour or so, finds its way into the same cave. And he follows him into the cave, and there's his brother Abe counting jewels. How strange. And he goes a little bit further around the next corner, and there's Yitz eating what seemed to be a marvelous meal, but still, what's he doing? Pick him up on the way back, he thinks, and he travels a little further into the cave and rounds another corner or two, and what does he see? He sees a Rebbe. And the Rebbe is sitting there with a scroll open before him, and the scroll is glowing. And he's reading the scroll and commenting on the scroll and studying the scroll. Jake, he can't pass this up. He stops and he starts to talk to the Rebbe, and they get into this wonderful discussion. And of course, the goat keeps going on. And it's hours later when the goat returns and passes each of the brothers by, who are each engaged in their study and their meal and their counting. And that night, there's just the goat, none of the brothers. Well, Abe, he doesn't want to father doesn't want to let him go, let Sarah go. Because what's happened to the other brothers? The father says, no, you can't go, Sarah, you've got to stay here. She sneaks out. And she follows the goat. And they go for an hour, and they find their way to the cave. And what do you know? In the cave, first there's Abe, counting his money. And there's Yitz, eating still. And then there's Jake, studying away. But Sarah, she stays focused, and she keeps following the goat. And where does the goat go? Well, it goes deeper and deeper into the cave until there's sort of a light ahead, and it turns out the cave is a tunnel. And she races out the other end of the tunnel to this wonderful, wonderful meadow. And sure enough, there's the goat, grazing on what must be the sweetest grass. I mean, she reaches down and chews on some of it, and it's like her whole body is filled with warmth. She wonders where this place is. And she looks, and off in the distance, there's Jerusalem, Yerushalayim. They've made their way back. Well, she gathers the goat, and together they walk through the cave. And first, they pick up Jake, and then they pick up Yitz, and then they pick up Abe, and they make it all the way back. That night, Sarah explains what she's seen. The whole family makes a very big and a very simple decision for them. The next morning, everyone heads out, the whole family and all the goats. And where did they go? To the land of Israel, where they live to this day.